then your work gets erased. So sometimes you guys will like look at it and then not add anything. I don't know, maybe we'll look at YouTube for a little bit, come back, and um, class ends, and I have no work from you guys. But it doesn't count as completing the assignment. I need you guys to actually submit your work on the Nearpod. So we're going to be starting with rule number 7. I'm going to share on my doc cam the same page as what you guys have on slide 11. Okay. Does anyone have questions? We worked on subtracting. Right? Subtracting was our order of operations on positive rational numbers, meaning that we had in our expression, we could have a positive or a negative number. And we needed to subtract a negative number. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the first number is as long as we are subtracting a negative number. That was we worked on last time, our rule 6. Okay. A little bit less writing. So subtracting of positive rational numbers. Their expression will always look like this: positive, negative. Could be either or for that first value, and then subtracting that positive rational number. Today we're going to subtract negative numbers. We found the additive inverse for numbers, right? Meaning the opposite of a number. And that doesn't mean the opposite of the value itself, right? So it stays the same distance from 0. So if I move 2 or 0 that distance, I'm going to, my additive inverse, go 2 to the opposite direction from 0, right? The distance stays the same. The only thing that becomes the opposite is the sign in front of the value. Going further back on the same Nearpod, the last week, we're adding rational numbers different. So adding rational numbers different. We're adding, we add a positive, and then we can add a negative number. Have a negative number, add a positive. Right? We had both, one positive, one negative. And when we add rational numbers with different signs, we do the opposite of what the operation actually said, right? We find the difference of the absolute values, the numbers in our expression, then use the sign of the rational number with the greater absolute value. On this particular page, we had another really important factor in there. We had that the number line, positive numbers move to the right. So move to the right. Positive numbers that grow in value, right? And our negative numbers, they move to the left. Side. Okay? And this is going to be important. We're going to talk about this again today. Touch on it just a little bit because it is an important part of adding or of subtracting rational numbers. Okay. Here we had when we did this, we learned that if we have 2 positives, right, we'll have a positive answer, and 2 negatives. When we add, we will have a negative number. Even more importantly, if we add 2 positive numbers, it grows value on the positive side, right? And then if we add 2 negative numbers to the negative direction, we are adding to the negative value. Okay, so we're not thinking about necessarily adding then the negative, bigger number, because positive and negative values as getting larger as they go away from 0. The essence of the absolute value is larger. And then the opposite of what we've been doing in math. The value of distance negative in the sense of we have negative things away from us. We use that as the distance. Remember, I talked about distance turned by as the inverse. That's no longer is just value. Just you got it. Measure. That's going to be super important in 8th grade. 8th grade, you're going to learn about Pythagorean theorem. Use that, especially if you get into engineering or design. Use Pythagorean theorem a lot, even in EOD development. It's there because helps with measurements, distance, art, actually have proportional ratios. All right, so let's get to the seven. On our list. Actually, slide 11 on your pod. All right, so today we'll be learning how to subtract negative rational numbers. Rational numbers just mean integers, including whole numbers that are positive or negative. Our first positive or negative is algebraic term. So positive, negative x, right? So we don't necessarily know what our number is right now. We're going to be subtracting negative number. Very important that we realize that negative number, this positive or negative can be either or from the beginning of our expression, but we need to make sure that when we look at the second part, that we are subtracting a negative number. Because the rule that we're going to learn right here only applies when we are subtracting negative rational numbers. Okay? Negative rational numbers be going to be kind of weird in the opposite direction on the number line. Or opposite, we can also just think of that as the right on the number line. If we go back to adding numbers with different signs, we had to take the sign with greater absolute value, right? And we found the difference of the absolute values, right? And that's when we were adding rational numbers, but now we are subtracting rational numbers, and we're subtracting negative rational numbers. So instead of finding the difference, you're actually going to be finding the sum of the absolute numbers over sum at. So if we are doing the opposite, that will also be doing the opposite of what our order of operations tells us to do. I know that seems extremely out there, kind of complicated, but just hear me out. All right, so I'm going to show you an example. We're going to work on this one together here. We have our number line a little bit more. We know how to do this, but from 0 to 1, my line is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments. That means flip line for 1, 6, right? Here is divided this section with denominator 6. And if I have line build closer to the next whole number, right? 6. This is 1/2, but 6. I was to divide the fraction, right? Greatest number. Don't get confused on your number line or values, right? Because we're going to learn. Just see, we know this already. That most times symbols, they're not. Okay? So, like with that said, I have negative. I know these things, right? About that being increased. Just I know. Okay. So go to step 1, subtracting negative numbers. I'm going to start at negative 1/2. I know that negative 1/2 is less than 0, right? And it's already here, wait for me, negative 1/2. So this is my starting point, negative 1/2. According to my rule, since I am subtracting a negative value, I will be moving to the right, right? Because our rule says that when you are subtracting negative rational numbers, you move in the opposite direction or to the right on the number line. And when I am moving to the right, if I look at my number line rule, remember, I'm moving towards the positive direction. Okay, that in mind. So I need to move to the right 4, 6. So that means I'm going to go 4 of the little lines, right? Because they're each worth 1, 6. So here's 6, 1, 6, 6, and 1 more, 1, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And I moved to the right. I can think of that actually the way I like, add it because I moved to the right. All right, so now I need to read my number line in between 0 and 1, right? So it's going to be positive, even though I subtracted a number. So I'm at positive, and I just went over from 0 to 1, one little line. So if I have just one, I know that that's worth 6. So I'm at positive 1, 6, right? My step 2, I moved my first 6, and I moved to the right because we are subtracting a negative, right? Negative number. And that's what we learned here in our rule up here, right? You move to the right. And my number line read positive 1, 6. And that looks really crazy, right? But if we added if we added our rational numbers, right? If we add with a different sign, if I was to add a negative number, I would have moved to the left, right? When I'm adding. But if I am subtracting, I need to do the opposite. So I'm not going to move to the left. I need to move right, right? So a little easier to think about it that way, right? Because you're not going to do the same thing if you're subtracting a negative number as you would if you were adding. Just look at it kind of like conceptually like this. If I have 4 negative, right? I have 4 negative pins. I'm going to take 4 negative pins. I'm going to take away negative 2 pins, right? I'm taking away 2 of these negative pins. That gives me 2 negative pins left over, right? I still have 2 negative pins. So if I am thinking about this in math way, right? I can look at this as negative 4 plus 2. That would give me negative 2, right? Like 4, 4, 2, right? The positive direction 1 plus 2 to negative 2, right? And that's a lot easier, right? An operation. So if I have 2 negatives, meaning I have a minus, a negative number in math, is all the time I can have 2 negatives, turn that into a right? I do that. I'm going to show you again on this example, right? So I started with a negative half, and then I needed to subtract negative over 6. My denominators aren't the same, right? But I already figured out that my 1/2, my negative 1/2, that was the same as 3/6, and 3/6 the same denominator as my 4/6, right? So let's just switch this to negative 3/6 minus negative 4/6. I have my minus negative sign here, which 2 negatives turn into a plus sign. The negative plus 4. Go from negative 3 plus 1 negative 1, oh, positive 1, right? My denominators will stay the same. I just need to take my negative 3 and add over, right? That will give me a positive 1 over 6. The denominator stays the same. Mathematically, if I don't have a number line, I'll add numbers. Cutting in and out. All right. Thank you for letting me know, Annabelle. Is it still cutting out? I have a different.
No.
No? Okay, perfect. All right. So is everything making sense so far? I know I'm telling you to kind of do the opposite of what you have been doing in math, for your math career, but it should make sense, right? If we're subtracting instead of adding, we're gonna do the opposite of what the order of operation kind of tells us to do, right? Because when we added a negative number, we had to move to the left. If we're gonna subtract a negative number, we obviously need to move to the right. All right, so if I iterate that rule, I move right to the left. Probably should have got red, huh? Red. Or red makes this negative. So if I am moving to the left, I'm moving in the negative direction. So by moving to the left on a number line is because I am adding a negative number. Right? Because if I am adding a negative number, that means that it is increasing in value on the negative side. I have. It's just a green. There. If I am adding a negative value, right? That means I'm going to be increasing my negative value. All right, so let's say if I am moving to the right, meaning I'm becoming more positive or growing in value on the positive side. If I move to the right on a number line, it's because I am subtracting a negative number. So if I am doing the opposite, right? If I'm moving to the left, that means I'm adding. Moving to the right, that means I am subtracting a negative number. This usually looks like a plus sign, right? This will look like actual subtraction sign. I have my minus negative value. I need to turn it into my plus sign. And this I will be just subtracting my positive number, right? So it'll look like that. Okay, so here's our example here where we are subtracting our negative number. Now let's go back. We're going to practice and we're going to look at it as if we are subtracting our positive number, right? Because I don't have another negative sign here. So that means I am going to be subtracting positive number. So we're going to do the same thing we did here for step 1. We will start at -8 though. Here's -8, my number line. According to my rule, if I am subtracting a positive rational number, I move to the left. Right? If I subtract a positive number, I need to move to the left. I'm going to move to the left 2.5. Here at my number line, my sections are divided into 1, 2, making my denominator 2 So each little line is worth 1/2, and 1/2 is equal to in decimal point is a decimal point into 0.5. So 8, I'm going to subtract 1 and move to the left 1, to the left 1 more, that'd be -2, and then I need to get to 1/2. I'm going to go over just a smaller section, -2.5. Okay, so now I need to step 3, read the number line, right? The number line, it's in between -10 and -11. Greater than -10, but less than -11. So that puts me at -10.5, right? So it grew in value the negative direction, right? And when I subtracted a negative number, it grew in value on the positive side. It's really, really important that as you're looking at the questions and understanding how to subtract rational numbers, whether they're positive or negative, you need to look here at the number that you are subtracting. This part is most important, right? If I am subtracting a positive number, I have a rule. It means I am going to move to the left. And if I am subtracting a negative number, I will be moving to the right. Okay, I get you ready for your guided practice. I'm going to put a 4-minute timer on, and I'll let you guys try out the guided practice. And it's so, so, so important. Please read the entire question on the guided practice, so that way you know what the question is actually asking you. Because I'm going to tell you right now that the guided practice is not just subtracting negative rational numbers, the combination. Okay, let me get our timer ready. And like usual, you get credit for attempting. I will give you a little bonus point if you get them all right. If you don't submit, just make sure that you submit before we move on or close down the Nearpod for the day, so that way your work doesn't get erased. Okay, and I just started the timer. All right, so the timer just went off. I'm going to check, see what we have. All right, so Annabelle, looks like you submitted, Chris, Sophia, Antonia. All right, so Sophia, you got the first one right, which the hard part, like I said, make sure that you're looking to see if you're adding or subtracting that positive or negative numbers. Let me turn off the music over here. I'm going to share my screen, my doc cam. There we go. All right, so this part has been like a little bit tricky kind of for everybody because you have to look and actually see or determine if the numbers are, if you're adding, sorry, subtracting a positive number or a negative number. Okay, so if I'm looking at what we're working on right now, question number 1, like I said before you guys get started, make sure that you're subtracting a negative number. If you move to the right, but we are subtracting a positive number. Okay, so I have negative 3 1/4, negative 1 3/4. So I'm going to check out my number line, see what I have. My sections are divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So my small lines are going to have a value 1/4, right? Divided into 4 sections. Each one is worth 1/4, 1/4. Okay. I'm looking here. I'm going to be subtracting 2.5. So let's get our denominators the same just so we understand how the lines to move over. So to get my denominator equal to 4, if I take 2 and I multiply it by 2, right, that will give me 4. So I need to do the same thing to the top. I need to multiply by 2, so that's 2/4. So now I need to go to my number line. I need to go to -1, and I have 3/4. So I'm going to go over 1, right, 2, 3. Starting point is here, -1/4. Okay. If I start there, I need to subtract a positive 2 and 2/4. Remember, if I am subtracting a positive number, I will not be moving to the left, but I won't be moving to the right. I'll be moving to the left. Okay. So I am subtracting a positive number. I'm not subtracting a negative number. We actually, back to rule 6, it actually says if we're subtracting a positive number. Okay, so that means I'm going to be 3, 2, and 2/4. So here's 4 little lines, right? That -1. Then I'm 3, 4 little lines. That's going to be -2. I need to go over 2, like right, 2. So that's going to put me here at -2.5. I need to read my number line out from -4, right? In between -4 and -5. Not larger than -5. here at this first line, I'm at -4 and so my answer to number 1 is actually going to be A, because I am subtracting a positive number. I didn't subtract a negative number. Okay, so make sure that you are looking at the equation or expression and understanding what you are supposed to be, what you're supposed to be answering or looking for. Okay. So question number 2, specific word problem, right? So number 2 is the snowfall total for Minot, North Dakota in December 1 1/3 feet below normal. Below normal. Is that going to be positive or negative? Right, it's going to be negative, right? Because it's below normal. So I have -1 1/3 feet below normal. Okay. Let's see. Right. So that's the part that told us it was going to be negative. Then I have the snowfall total for January, right? For here I had December. So my snowfall total for January in Minot was 4/6 of a foot below normal. So that means I had -4/6 of a foot of snow, right? Or I could say I had 4/6 of a foot of snow less than I did, right? Or less than I usually would. Okay, so what was the overall change in snowfall amount from December to January? Okay, so my December was -1 1/3 feet from normal, right? And then in January, I underlined that blue. So January was -4/6 of a foot of snow below normal. I'm going to look at this one more time. What is the overall change in snowfall amount from December to January? Amount from December to January. Okay, okay. Let's go ahead and do some math. I know that I need to figure out what the change was from December to January. So if I had -1 1/3 feet of snow, and I need to find the overall change or the overall difference, I'm going to subtract my 4/6 of a foot. That was negative, right? -4/6 of a foot. If I look here, I have negative, and I'm subtracting, right? So I'm subtracting a negative. It tells me that I need to right. Okay. Turn this side. So a little bit of issues, right? Because I have denominators that are equal to here. Look at you. This into a fraction over 6 of fraction. So it's the answer. -1 1/3. Number I have 4/6. I have two even numbers. I know I can divide by 2. 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and do 4/6 and turn that ratio fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2. Okay? And then I want to turn this into a mixed so make this a little bit easier to work with, right? So -1 is equal to -3/3. And I need to add my 1, right? this one here, so I have negative 4/3. I need to add, right? Because I was going to subtract a number. So now I just need to add my numerators because my denominator will stay the same. They're equal to each other. I have -4 plus 2. -4 plus 2, right? So -4 by plus 2. Well, we got 3, so 1, -2. So -4 plus 2 is equal to 2. Positive, sorry, it is equal to -2, right? So I went -4 plus 1 is -3 plus 2 is -2. Then I need to make sure that I keep my denominator. So I have -2 over. But my question was, what was the overall change in the snowfall amount? So my overall change was 2/3. It was -2/3, right? Because it's 2/3 below normal, 2/3 below normal difference. But it's just asking what was my overall change. And if I went -1/3 and I went 6, right, that means that I increased value, right? Really below normal. And now I'm a little bit less below normal, right? 4, 6, less than 10. So my snowfall actually increased, right? Increased by 2/3 of a foot. The answer was 2/3 of a foot, right? 2/3 of a foot. So the snowfall increased by 2/3. Number 2, my answer is going to be B. The snowfall will increase by 2/3 because not what what I am normal, right? It's normal. Are you now in January? It's not the total change between December and January. Meaning I needed to find absolute value. Like ignoring. Does that make sense, everybody? And Annabelle, I got your point for that negative. I know it seems kind of complex, right? If we think about December, our snow, right? Snowfall only like, right? So was negative and 1/3 low, right? Then in January, they had got closer with, right? Now we're only 2/3 away from normal for all snowfall, right? We got closer to snowfall had what? You know, and on the S back, we had a lot of questions that were kind of like this, right? It might be really tricky, but it's just again learning that math vocabulary and becoming really fluent in math language. You need to be able to understand that we learned that it was 1/3 foot below normal, and then we were at 4/6 of a foot below normal, and we needed to find the overall change. It didn't ask us to see how many below normal are we now. We just needed to find the difference December, January. And our overall change is going to be that absolute value. And I know, like, as we're going through some lessons, it seems kind of obvious, right? Because of, adding and subtracting, it's also really, really important that we learn these different terms, the absolute value or overall value. Let's move on to question number 3. What we'll do is I'll save the multiplying rational numbers for Friday. So we'll just do this for today. And if you have questions, after we go over question number 3, time questions, okay? So, question number 3, Jackson and his father went scuba diving, right? When you go scuba diving, that means you go under the water, right? Dive down and go scuba diving in the water. At the first location, Jackson and his father were 8 feet below sea level. So let's have our ocean over here. Okay, here we go. So here's our ocean. Our first location, say Jackson and his dad. Here we go for down. Okay. Here's location number 1, right? So we are at -8 feet from the top, right? From the top of the ocean or sea level. All right, so here's location 1. So then they moved to a different location that was 9 more feet below level, right? They subtracted another 9 feet. Location 9. Okay. If I went 9 more feet, right? I have 8 feet that I went down. My second location, I went 9 more feet down, meaning I added value to my negative side, right? I went 4 down. So I went from -8 level, and I subtracted 9 more feet, right? So that's going to look like -8 minus 9, because we need to move to the left, right? We need to become more negative. So we're going to follow that rule for 6, where if we subtract, and we subtract 4 feet down, we need to move in that same direction as the negative side. We need to increase our negative value, right? So we're negative, we go left. So it's like we're going to subtract a positive number, right? If I look here, I went down 8 feet and down 9 more. Look at me, 7 feet, right? Visual, mathematics, equation-wise, we need -8 minus 9, right? So it's going to be a positive 9. The -8 minus 9, that will mean I was using a number line. I would go minus to the left, right? So -9, negative 11, -12, -14, -15, -16, -17. That's like a curved number line, right? But that will take me 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6, -7, and over here, -8, and then -9, right? That would be my number line. So -8 plus 9 would give me -17. If I look here, here's my 17 feet. It says, how far below sea level? Below sea level are they scuba diving at the second location? So according to this question, it's asked me how far below sea level. When I look at this, I'm obviously thinking like, oh, I have -17 feet, right? But I have it verbally written here, right? Verbally, that's right? I have it written here in math language that it's going to be negative, right? -8 sea level is how far below sea level. We have 17 feet below 30 written here, that's going to be that equation negative. Then 17 here's that negative idea, whatever value I have here. See that here, 8 plus 9, right? Went 17 feet down. So for number 3, our answer is 17 feet. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, Thomas? I know it's kind of complicated and it gets better with Thomas on everything. And it will get easier with practice. But these little tricks I'm teaching you guys, I made a promise to you guys when I started teaching you that I'm going to try to make that. That's why I have all these kind of like tricks, because I want for you guys when you get into 8th grade and you get introduced to these crazy theorems like Pythagorean's theorem, that it makes sense. You understand that when you go from a 2-dimensional world and enter a 3D world, you're going to have positive and negative numbers, and those values are more important than it being positive or negative. Think about those negative numbers as a distance rather than a value in itself. And it's like less than those, no use. But that it's actually significant in distance. So yeah, that's where the complication kind of comes from. We do have 4 more minutes. If you have any questions, I will stay on help answer them. If you want more explanation on guided practice, I can definitely go over that more. I'm going to leave the earpod open because I've noticed once I close it, I don't think you guys have access to it. So the next one's going to be student case. If you have not done some of these, let me know, because what I'll need to do is I have an open earpod that's just student based, and then I will give you the recording so that we fill out the sheets and do the guided practice. Okay. And again, if you need the state test, let me know. I will have one open all day, and I'll have one after school. And I did make arrangements with the student that I will open the test at, she said 4:30 or 5. I'll have a test open even. Okay, so thank you guys all for participating. If you have any questions, you can either put it in the chat or you can unmute. Bye, Annabelle. Don't eat any more expired snacks, okay? I still have that giant snack box that I had over at Sequoia, so if you need any snacks, you know that I have way too many. Remember those like that giant box of Oreos I brought to school that one day? And the cups. I still have an immense amount of Oreos. I only like the double stuffed ones. Oh, the other ones I still have. All right. All right, I'll end the meeting. I'll let you guys go a little bit early.